Day 2 was our first full day on our Adventures by Disney in Japan. The day started with us having a breakfast with all of our other fellow adventurers. This was really the first time you really get to meet everybody. So our adventure guides, who we met the night before, James and Tomomi, started off by telling us a little bit about themselves and how and where they grew up in Japan. Then they asked a member from each party to just introduce themselves as well as the rest of the party so that we could all start getting to know each other because we'll be together for the next 11 days. Here's an overview of what we're going to do on our first day. Now, forgive me because I will try to talk about where we will be going and what we'll see, but I don't speak Japanese, so if I get the names wrong, just please remember that. So here's an overview of the map of Kyoto, and we are at Point A. That's where the Hyatt Regency is. And today we are heading over to the area where Point B is in an area called Arashiyama. And it is just one of the most beautiful areas in Kyoto. It's surrounded by Arashiyama Mountain, which is also known as Storm Mountain. There's some debate about where the name came from. Apparently it's a really old name. Some people think it's because that's where the storms typically originate in this area. So sometimes there's a lot of lightning and thunder. So Tomomi made a joke to say that that was Kyoto's Big Thunder Mountain. After spending the morning, pretty much most of the morning in Arashiyama, where we'll see so many great sights, bamboo forests, great temples, go for a rickshaw ride. We'll actually use the same route back over to the east side of town. And you can see on this map, and I'm gonna get the name wrong again, but it's the Pure Water Temple. It's Kiyomizu-dera is the Pure Water Temple, and that's where we'll go in the afternoon, take a walk around that temple, and then head back to the hotel for a quick stop for a couple hours before we then go on to dinner. Let me take you on a flyover of our journey to Arashiyama. We head north from the hotel and then we turn west and we start heading across town. It takes about a half hour to get from the hotel to Arashiyama. And as soon as we get across town and we're on the west side, this is where we get our first view. When we get to the river, we get our first view of the beautiful Arashiyama Mountains and the area that we'll spend the morning. And right here in the top corner is where we will spend most of our day. Here's an overview of what we'll be doing today. The yellow paths are what we would do for walking, and the blue path is where the rickshaw goes. So I'll show you a little bit of a zoomed in shot, but and by the way, there's a link to this map in the description. If you want to go ahead and check out that map, you can actually bring it up and interact with this map as well. But the bus stops, and it's kind of hard to see in the video, but in the bottom right, you'll see a 1 and a 6. So the number 1 is the point where the bus parks, and we take this path. It's that yellow path going over to the number 2 right there in the bottom center of the screen. That is only a very short 5-minute, 400-meter walk. So if you're worried about walking, it's not really very far. So from there, we get on our rickshaws and we take the blue path. We kind of head back to, well, I'm going to orient on this map. We head to the left and then we start heading straight down the street, like toward the top of the map. We make a left into this bamboo grove and there's some temples in there. We cross over the railroad tracks and then we come back out onto some residential areas, and we continue to head in the direction of the top of the map toward another temple, and then we eventually make our way left and down through some local neighborhoods as well as some local farms. Right down here, I think at point, let me see, that would be point 4 is where we would get out, and then we would walk to the bamboo forest, and you can see that path. It's again, it's not a very long walk. It's probably less than the walk from the bus to the rickshaw company. Go in there, take some photos of the bamboo walk, and walk back to the rickshaw, and then the rickshaw takes us back down the main street over the bridge. So we actually go over the bridge and then eventually back to the rickshaw company. From there, we do a walking tour, and that's the other yellow area you see pretty much just kind of in the middle of the map, where we walk from the rickshaw company to another one of the very famous temples. we spent some time walking around, and then from there, we walked back to the area where the bus parked. There's a restaurant literally right next to the parking lot where we had lunch before we headed back to the east side of town. So here's a zoomed in view, and on this, we're literally walking from point 1 to point 2. It's only about 400 meters, about a 5-minute walk to the rickshaw company. As we approach the rickshaw company, we get our very first view of all of our rickshaw drivers, I guess. I don't know what you call them. But today, we would affectionately call them Tomomi's boys. After learning how to get in and out of the rickshaw, we head on out and we head down the main street. The bridge that you saw earlier in the video is actually directly behind us. So we are heading down the main street where we will see the first of many temples for the day. Here we enter the first bamboo forest. That was the one in the center of the map that I showed you in the overview earlier. I showed my wife an overview of the map with the bamboo forest earlier, and she realized it was in the middle of the city, and she thought while she was in this forest, it just seems so huge. But you can tell this is just right in the middle of Arashiyama. So we've got some temples here. That's one of the many temples you'll see today. And then we'll head across the railroad tracks and we'll go take some pictures. This is the area. The rickshaw drivers will take some pictures, and these guys are great at getting just some amazing perspectives of the bamboo, like looking straight up. So great photographers. After we take some pictures, then we head out for the rest of our tour of Arashiyama. We continue to head down the main street toward the Tenryuji Temple gate in the distance. Here we approach the Rickshaw Temple, which is a Buddhist temple, and our rickshaw guides explain to us that it's a very famous place where lots of movies are shot, and as well as people go in and take media shots of some very beautiful gardens inside. I think that garbage truck was no bigger than my Toyota Sequoia. Here our guide points out one of the traditional Japanese thatch roofs. Here our guide explains that this is a typical Japanese house. As we tour the local neighborhoods with the surrounding mountains, everything just seems so beautiful and so peaceful. As we get closer to the bamboo forest, our guide stopped at this area to give us a great photo opportunity of the Arashiyama Mountains and talk to us about the history of the Great Storm Mountains. After a short walk from the rickshaws, we enter the bamboo forest, and the sight is just simply breathtaking. After a short walk in the bamboo forest and an opportunity to take some pictures, we started heading back toward the rickshaw company, back toward the main road. We'll go ahead and cross over the bridge before we finally come back to the rickshaw company. You can see that it starts to go downhill from here, and as soon as we turn this corner, you'll see our rickshaw driver really having to use his legs to slow us down and put the brakes on. And here we are back on the main street, heading back toward the Togetsukyo Bridge. You can see that this was the more touristy part of town. The main street is lined with just shops selling everything from clothing, merchandise, food of all sorts. As we cross the bridge, we get great views of the river, the dam, and the Storm Mountains. And finally, before we headed back to the rickshaw company, we just went through an area where there were dozens of statues of Buddha, and that's where we'll end up walking to as soon as we get to that part of the day. After leaving the rickshaw company, we started our walking tour, and just a short walk from the rickshaw company was that place where we saw those Buddhas. Our tour was interrupted by a samurai who told us he was following us all day, and he came across a bag in the forest, in the bamboo forest. And in that bag were some gifts. And those gifts were our adventure pins for the day, which was Bamboo Beauty. The next stop on our walking tour was the Tenryuji Temple, which is a Buddhist Zen temple with beautiful gardens. And if you walk up this hill, you can see Kyoto all the way to the east, and those mountains, in those mountains, that's where we'll head back to in the afternoon and go to the Pure Water Temple. After leaving the temple, we walked back toward the river where the restaurant is, and we just saw some beautiful views along the way, the dam, the bridge, and this is our view. The restaurant is actually 2 stories, and you can see this from the window of the restaurant past this beautiful temple gate. And then finally, we will head back from Kyoto back over to the Pure Water Temple for the afternoon. If you watch my Kyoto Day 1 video, you'll remember that we were wandering around in some of these ancient streets, shopping streets, and I said that if you headed up the hill, you'd go to the Pure Water Temple. Well, this is the view from the top of the temple looking back down the street that we didn't go up on the first day. The Pure Water Temple sits on a hill, so as you approach from the bottom of the hill, the views, the sights are just impressive. From the temple, you get a great view of Kyoto. In fact, the mountains in the background are the Arashiyama Mountains toward the left side of the screen. That's where we were in the morning. One of the main things to do at the temple is to drink from the waterfall that's really divided into 3 streams. And you get to choose which one you want to drink from, and the choices will either give you luck and romance, or a long life, or financial or academic success. After giving us a couple hours to rest, we got on the bus and we went to the dinner venue for the night, Sodoh. During dinner, we were able to see a Geiko performance, which is what they call a geisha in Kyoto. And after her performance, she sat down with us and we were able to just chat and have a Q&A session. So for those of you who've been on Adventures by Disney before, you know they tried to really immerse you in the culture of the country that you're visiting by not just doing sightseeing, but also experiencing local foods as well as any kind of traditional music or dance. So we saw the Geiko earlier, and the last performance for the evening was a 3-person samurai troupe that did a fan and a sword routine. It was really interesting. Before they started, we learned about the culture of samurai and the history. So let's go ahead and take a look at the performance.
The sword is very important and is regarded as a spiritual object. Holding the sword with both hands raised as an offering shows loyalty to a person. When samurai go outside, they always carry a floating fan, sensu. The fan is not used for cooling oneself, but is a master. But it's used when showing respect to another person. In the Kempo performances, we play not only battle scenes, but also introduce scenes that show samurai culture and spirituality with action of the floating fan. For example, this shows wind. We call it kaze in Japanese. Next, this shows rain. We call it ame. Next, this shows snow. We call yuki. Fighting in the snowy. Next. Please guess. Yeah, wind and fall. Yeah, fall. Yeah, so it's falling leaves. Yeah. Or this shows another thing. It's shown in spring. Any ideas? Yeah, cherry blossom petal, sakura. Very famous in Japan. Next. So what do you think?
Drinking?
Yes, what is he drinking?
Sake.
Ah, yes. You know very well. He's drinking sake from big cup. At wedding ceremony or when sumo wrestler won the champion or when samurai won the battle, people use big cup called sakazuki to drink sake. Like this. Okay, next. Yeah, so he's drinking yeah, so some people answer tea. Tea is fine, but actually Japanese people are told use both hands always when we drink tea. Very relaxing. So, this time, only one hand. Yes, you know very well. Small cup and sake bottle again. Yeah. Baby style of drinking sake. Yeah. Let's go. Master, are you okay? You are still on the stage. Wake up. Okay, so let's go to the next, okay? So what do you think?
Door.
Yeah, so he's opening the sliding door, Japanese style sliding door called fusuma or shoji, made of washi paper. Before going into battle, samurai must show respect to their parents. He enters room, places a fan between him and his parents, and bows. Not showing one's true feeling to others is a way of thinking for the samurai. Therefore, it is unthinkable for the samurai or his families to cry or show emotion when parting for the battle. Once the sliding door is closed, however, they may let out their emotions. Okay, next action. What do you think? Yes, so he's using bows and arrows. He's now on the battlefield. Okay, so at the end, I would like to show you one more use of the folding fan used in another performing art called rakugo. Can you understand what it is? So what do you think? Yeah, so it's Japanese noodle. Actually, rakugo performers, soba noodle is eaten, representing chopsticks. This is not summer tradition. However, it helped to show how important the folding fan is in Japanese culture. And making sounds when you eat noodle, it's not a bad manner as Japanese culture. This shows the noodle is delicious. You can try only in Japan. Okay, thank you, Master Hisho. Thank you.
So overall, this was just a fantastic way to start our first full day on our Adventures by Disney Japan trip. So guys, if you didn't see the Kyoto Day 1 video where we came in a day before and walked around, I'll go ahead and put a link to that right here. You can go check that out and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I will continue to document the rest of our trip. So hit the subscription button and then the notification bell so you know when I post new videos, and go ahead and hit the like button. But thanks for watching, guys.